Welcome everyone to my next video here, recording on the 24th of August, 2023 from Oregon. So I'm looking forward to covering the next set of astrological events that are coming up here in the month of September. And we're going to take a look at some really interesting aspects here. But this is continuing a series of videos that I'm doing around astrological education and, keeping up with events. And particularly I'm reviewing the months. This is going to be a little more frequent. And so I've had some travels and some other kinds of work that's taken precedence over making more videos. So I hope to do more of these in the future, including potential live streaming on YouTube, where we can do some Q&A, and I'll be picking a few subjects to talk about during that as well. And people can ask questions about their personal charts as well during that time too. So that'll be a lot of fun to move into. I think it's going to happen after September. So sometime in October, November is when I'm thinking of doing that live streaming. But in the meantime, let's take a look at the upcoming month and this particular episode. All right, episode 53 of Signs, Planets, and Stellar Rhythms. Erik Roth here, shamanic astrologer, and this is the outlook for September. The astrological events that are coming in here in September 2023. So as we dive into this, we're going to look at the major things that are going on and just a little bit of a rundown of some of the, a screenshot of that. I'm going to also include that particular information in the description too, so you can peruse at your leisure on that as well. But here are the episode highlights. Venus stationing direct in September. Jupiter stationing retrograde, pretty close to each other as far as time-wise, not an actual location, though. Of course, there's the equinox every September. Mercury stations direct in Virgo. Mars will disappear in the evening sky into the glare of the sun at the end of September. And we're going to look at the new moon and the full moon of September 2023. So here's the major events in the date order here. We have September 3rd. Again, this is in Pacific Daylight Time. So, if you're in a different part of the US or the world, you may need to add or subtract several hours to this. But Venus stationing direct at 12:12 Leo. On the 4th, Jupiter stations retrograde at 15:34 Taurus while conjunct the moon. That is something to be in the early morning sky, but it'll be, if you have some clear skies, Jupiter tends to, at least to here as of this time, as of August 24th, 2023, it'll be up after 11:30 p.m. midnight and continue to rise earlier and earlier. Jupiter has slowed down considerably, and it's definitely worth seeing, and particularly with this station point while it's conjunct the moon on the 4th. On the 6th, Mercury's retrograde, but it will conjunct the sun. So that is between the Earth and the sun. So Mercury will pass between them on that date. And then on the 14th, we have the new moon in Virgo. On the 15th, Mercury stations direct. So Mercury's retrograde for about half the month of September, and it stations direct at 8 Virgo. On the 23rd, we have our equinox at 0 Libra. And this is happening really, really late on the 22nd here in the Pacific Coast, like 10 minutes before midnight. But most of the world will experience it on the 23rd. So that's because it was just before midnight, I put that in there on the 23rd. That's always 0 Libra, September equinox. And then the full moon on the 29th at 6 Aries. And then on the 30th of September, Mars gets within 15 degrees of the sun and 22 Libra. So it's a magical point there, only because of the numerical significance. And it's next to the star Spica, and it will no longer be visible moving into phase 3. And back to the Mercury station direct, that's actually, it is also the beginning of a new synodic cycle for Mercury. So I'm going to mention that once again when we go into that slide there. Okay, Venus stationing direct is the first one on September 3rd. Venus begins its new synodic cycle, or began its new synodic cycle back on the 20th, when it first had its morning sky appearance. That's a heliacal rise. I talked a lot about that in the previous 2 videos, Venus retrograde and the new Venus cycle in Leo. So Venus will station direct at 6:20 p.m. Pacific daylight time at 12:12 Leo. Another numerical, synchronicity there, 12:12. So the station point is between the head of the Hydra and the Crab constellations. I'm going to show you a night sky of that, and the asteroid Juno, which will be close by at 9:52 Leo. The Juno represents, in shamanic astrology, I've looked at that as kind of the structure or what intended relationships are on a whole, whatever sign it's in. So in this case, it's, we've got all this Leo energy here. So it's a very creative zone, powerful creative zone, willful zone of the sky. The symbolism in this area between where Venus is stationing direct in the constellations there connects us really to this strong primal and protective feminine. The sign of Leo is a strong creative force, and it marks a special place, showing that the goddess is now ready to be more than seen. Venus is ready to create. So it's this really powerful point. Now, in that point, it's not in the constellation of the Lion, but it's in this area where there's sort of this greater draw in from this protective, strong energy of the feminine, and that has a kind of this connection to the earth, particularly with the Crab and the Hydra, which Hydra has a much more primal connection to earth herself, especially the feminine. And here it is in the sky on the morning of the 4th. So it stations direct on the 3rd, but we won't see it until after it's gone direct. We won't see that until the very next morning. And Venus is very bright at minus 4.66, nearly minus 4.7. Venus can get as bright as minus 4.9, nearly at minus 5, which is extremely bright. By comparison, the full moon is at minus 12 plus. So Venus at minus, almost the high minus 4s is very, very bright, and it'll be easy to pick out. We can see a bright star Procyon up here above it, and just barely starting to come out is Regulus. So some people may be able to see the heart of the Lion coming up after Venus rises, but early September is a great time to really connect with the star Regulus as it makes its early morning appearance there. Jupiter, on the other hand, is stationing retrograde in the middle of the night. Now, this is you can see this alignment here on the same day or 24 hours later. It's within 24 hours. We see this alignment here. Now, you won't see Uranus in the sky with your naked eye, but just to know that as the moon gets to where it is here in the middle of the night and early morning sky, you're seeing this waning moon. Not quite a last quarter yet, so it's between a full and a last quarter. You're seeing Uranus here. All of these are in the sign of Taurus, and then the mouth of Cetus, the whale, is right here. So I've talked a lot about Jupiter and Taurus. I didn't create another slide for that specifically, other than this this night sky appearance, because I would refer you to the Jupiter and Taurus video that I created. But Taurus is a sign that has a lot to do with receiving the sensuality, pleasures, and beauty and comforts of the earth, or really the bounty of the earth. And the station point is a still point. It's a stillness of that moment. Now, Uranus will be going direct, retrograde fairly soon as well, after not more than a few more days after the time of this recording. So that's something I'm going to mention in my social media posts on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. But this alignment here is, I think, really profound, and it's pointing to one of the closest points that Jupiter and Uranus will experience together before we get to April of 2024. That's when those two planets have their actual conjunction with each other. So they're within about 7.5 degrees here of each other. And you can see that Jupiter is at 1534 Taurus. So Uranus is at about just under 23 degrees Taurus. So we're seeing, that alignment right there. So it's a good time to tune in to the energies of receiving, of treating yourself with love and abundance, of soaking in the hot springs, getting a massage, really being in your garden, really connecting with the earth's beauty and feeling what it means to be in flesh and blood in a pleasing way. Now, this can't always be done by everybody, but even little moments that we can steal away within ourselves, even in the midst of some darkness, we can tap into that within ourselves, particularly in our relationship with Earth. So it's an opportunity for us to really connect in that space. So Jupiter and Uranus have moved from this watery realm, or moving from the watery realm into more of this earthy energy. Just under the constellation of the Ram here, and Cetus the whale, and away from the fish, moving into the bull. So these planets are moving into an area that has some really powerful bright stars. And even Algol, the star of the Medusa's head, is looking on Jupiter and Uranus. So there is some stronger feminine energy, death rebirth energy, and also a way of that is included in the power of the feminine, is also about our relationship to the earth and the beauty and sensuality of the earth itself, and how we rely on it for our sustenance. So it's in a way, it's kind of protecting that of that beauty and that sensuality of the earth. So that's what this alignment is about. This direct point is about for Jupiter, and it will back up all the way to about 5 degrees, 5 degrees Taurus, which is roughly in this area, still under the head of the Ram, and sort of the ears or the antennae of the sea monster, the whale here, depending on how one looks at it, because various creatures have been projected upon Cetus. But it's right in that area, so you'll see that Jupiter won't go direct until December 30th of 2023. That'll be for another video altogether. All right, so then after this, we have the new moon at 21 Virgo on September 14th at 6:40 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And the symbol of this is a 23 Virgo, because it's literally a 22 Virgo, essentially, and it just 2 minutes and it's 22. So I bumped it to 23 as the symbol. And this is a lion tamer rushes fearlessly into the circus arena. So some of the keywords, this comes from the Sabian Oracle by Linda Hill, a book. And the keywords include having faith and courage in your abilities, sublimating animal instincts, control, professionalism, extremism in a way of like tapping into the very edges of like with, working with a lion and that energy there. And it's fascinating too, because I think the lion symbolism in here is obviously to do with that this new moon sits right by the lion's tail. And so that part of the energy is concluded in this new moon. Dangerous spectacles, meaning like it's a spectacle that can put you on edge and can be dangerous to work with. I mean, your life could be in danger in that. But there's also training and conditioned responses, restrained passion, and coordination skill, superheroes holding the whip. These are these keywords that she writes. So I think of this as like tapping in and harnessing the time-honored ability to work with the energy of chaos in a controlled fashion, but knowing and being flexible for unexpected changes in that. So this new moon honors the greater patterning, which includes some chaos in it, and not just perfect control, where perfection really is as we all know, is an illusion. There is really not. Perfection includes, if you want to say that one version of perfection is like there is no slip-ups, no mistakes. But in another version of perfection, it means it includes the entire arena of it all. So that includes the chaos, that includes the unexpected as part of the overall patterning. And so this symbol connects us into that space right there. All right, so let's take a look at Mercury stationing direct. Again, this is another stillness point, another point where we're connecting with Virgo. Mercury completes its third circuit of retrograde in 2023 on the 15th of September. That's at 8 degrees Virgo. It's been in the sign of Virgo since July 28th and will continue to be there until early October. So, but it also, anytime Mercury stations direct in the shamanic astrology language, this means a new synodic cycle is happening. And that cycle is all about Virgo being the sort of setting the tone for the next few months until it goes direct again, which is at the, I think it's right at the end, the very end of 2023. So anytime Mercury has its retrograde loop, it'll stay in one or two signs for over 2 months. And normally Mercury is in a sign for about 2 to 3 weeks. So it really races through signs pretty quickly. The quickest of all the planets, the moon obviously moves through a sign every 2.5 days, but for anything that's not orbiting the Earth, this is the quickest of them all. The station point, particularly, even the station retrograde point, but in this case, the direct point is a stillness point. Virgo emphasizes the details, the patterns of life, and the sacredness. We can use this time to tune into our own patterns to better see the details, not just in our own life, but the life around us. And in the stillness of things, where a different kind of wisdom exists. So just in a sense of, from a shamanic perspective, I've often done this exercise myself when I'm on hikes or out there, and just simply listening is tuning into the world around you and kind of not repressing, but kind of pushing away any attachments or thoughts or projections and just listen. And it can take some practice to do that, but you might hear some things that you wouldn't otherwise hear in that space. And that can be a blessing. There could be messages there between the wind, between the animals, between the land and the sky that can bring those messages to you in that way. Okay, well, where will Mercury be? Well, Mercury stationing direct will be visible under good, if you've got really good conditions to see it. It's at a plus 1.2. This is very similar to Regulus's brightness. I think Regulus is just maybe slightly brighter than Mercury, but not by very much at all. We can see Venus dominating out here at minus 4.75, getting close to its brightness. I think it gets to minus 4.8 if you round up there. You can see it, and Venus definitely greatly outshines Sirius, which is on the right-hand side of the screen here, and even more so Procyon. But this is where it's located here in the Lion constellation. Again, this Lion being strongly activated by the new moon, and now Mercury stationing direct here. So the Lion represents this very strong vocal creative force, but because it's in the sign of Virgo, there is an intimate relationship in the age in which we live in with the Mother Earth, with the feminine, and so we're experiencing that as part of that. So it's like the strong voice that wants to be heard, that wants to be taken seriously, that wants to express its creative self into the world. And so Regulus, Mercury, and even Venus will play a role in that as we go forward here. Now, if you get up really early in the morning here on the 15th, or really 14th, 15th, 16th, you're really going to see this really cool lineup between these two planets and the star Regulus there. So it's definitely worth connecting into. And Jupiter and Saturn will be visible in the sky as well during that time. All right, so the next point is the equinox, September 22nd, 23rd. Again, this is at 11:50 p.m. Pacific time, and I wrote here the 23rd to make it easy for people to realize, like, most of North America is basically the 23rd for all intents and purposes. But if you really wanted to get exact from a ceremonial perspective and really want to be up in the middle of the night to experience that equinox point, that would be the point to do it. And on the East Coast, it would be 2:50 a.m. This is when autumn takes place in the northern hemisphere and spring in the south. And this symbolically connects to the balance of day and night. And the Earth is still tilted, but it's tilted in a way where half the Earth is experiencing the sun equally all around the planet. So it's in its particular orbit. Now, it's not, we can say equal day, equal night, but when we get into the fine details of things, it all depends on, where you live, the mountains around you. You'd have to be in the most perfect of places to have exact amount of day and exact amount of night. And it would have to, the equinox point would have to be at a particular point on the horizon to do that. Like at this point in the middle of the night, you probably don't get that, experience on the 22nd or the 23rd. You get really, really close, but not to the exact second, if you will. So it's important, like with Libra, it's important to be in conscious equal partnership, meaning connecting with people in a conscious equal way, where there is a certain sense of knowing the needs of others, along with being able to have your voice being heard too. So it's a symbol of being more conscious in any relationship, whether they be family, romantic partnership relationships, such as marriages, or colleague work relationships, particularly on the ones that are non-hierarchical. Obviously, there are natural hierarchies when it comes to certain kinds of businesses and parent to child, but there are other things that we can do to make them more conscious and equal, where people's voices are heard. So that's what I would share about this equinox. And in the sky, before, this is again, this is from the West Coast, looking at the sky before sunset. This is what the sky is going to look like. And so when the sun sets, we'll be able to see Mars, the star Spica here, which is where Mars will be very close to at the end of September. And then you can see the Lion, not visible in the evening sky, but it will be visible in the morning, along with Mercury. Now, Venus is not, that is not supposed to be there, actually. So Venus is on the other side of the Lion constellation, so that's not right. Just to take that off there. But below this, we can see also Venus sits above the Crow and the Cup. This has to do with the mythology of of the flood, and the crow being the bird. Sometimes it's the dove that gets sent out to find land. So that's a whole nother story in and of itself. And then we have the scales, which, particularly around the mythology of Egypt, and weighing the feather and the heart, and whether one needs to go on to the next level of ascension or come back to either the underworld or living another life here on this planet. And so this is that setup and where the equinox point currently is. And over a long period of time, over the centuries, this equinox point will slide further and further and further to the lion. And that's part of the entering of another age for humanity, as the precession of the equinox on the March equinox slides backwards to the water bear, aka what astronomers still call Aquarius, and the so-called age of Aquarius. So too is, we can say, coming into the age of the lion in the centuries to come. All right, so let's look at the full moon. It's at 6 degrees Aries, and that happens at 2:57 a.m. on September 29th, 2:57 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, 5:57 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This would be 7 Aries Sabian symbol from Linda Hill's Sabian Oracle book. The symbol is a man successfully expressing himself in two worlds at once. And the key words include integrating the spiritual and the material, balancing things, juggling acts, moving through people's lives and social stratas, translations of words and thoughts from one area of life to another, having separate family situations, so juggling two different family dynamics, living a dual life, which, there are certainly shadows of that. And you see that definitely played out in different mediums like books and movies, especially the rise of Marvel movies out there, like movies like Spider-Man, and on the DC side, like Batman, where they've got two worlds they're having to deal with together, and they're trying to successfully balance themselves between those two worlds. But being adaptable, moonlighting, alternate realities, shifting focus when necessary, versatility, and looking elsewhere. So this is a full moon that is in transition. It's a full moon that sits, in the fish constellation near the March equinox point. So it's, if you're looking to access two different worlds and connect with two different worlds and try to work with them in such a way where you can benefit from that, this would be the moon to do it. And it's definitely going to be a bright moon. It won't be a super moon, but it will be very bright. I'll have to double check on that to see if it is a super moon, because I know there's a super moon here August 30th of 2023. But those are the two that I'm familiar with. But just to note that this moon will be, it'll be near, but maybe not quite the super moon. The closest super moons are in August of 2023, which we've experienced one and the other one. So yes, something to look out for there. All right, then we move on to Mars disappearing from the sky on September 30th. So when Mars gets within 15 degrees of the sun, the planet becomes invisible to the naked eye. And this can happen, or this happens on September 30th at 22:22 Libra. So we have Venus stationing direct at 12:12 Leo, and then we have Mars disappearing or getting within 15 degrees of the sun at 22:22. I just find that interesting. There's certain numerological synchronicity here, and with the number 2 and the repetition of the numbers. So if we combine the 22 to 22 and 22, that would come up with 8. And that's the number of abundance and infinity. So there's certainly a sense of like going beyond where we are with that number. Experientially also begins the third phase of the Mars synodic cycle. This is the underworld phase. So it disappears for about 3 to 4 months in the glare of the sun. This is known as a time of the masculine surrender. Mars is now on the other side of the sun, so from the perspective of Earth, we can't see it unless we have a powerful telescope. Shamanically and symbolically, this can be, as if this is something that can be seen as what the Native Americans have termed as the sun dance or humility ceremony and Okipa initiation. Ultimately, it can be a process of facing one's fears and death and rebirth. So it's kind of the surrender of the ego and allowing yourself to be in a place of, beyond that. So you can be, you humble yourself in that space. So for people that are having what we call Mars return time, this can be a really strong part of the Mars synodic cycle. But the masculine moves into, we can call it its shadow phase, and where it's going to be in the sign of Libra and Scorpio, and then come out in the sign of Sagittarius later on. And so it goes through that interesting dynamic of having Scorpio as part of this underworld phase, and we'll talk more about that in future videos. So where Mars will be when it sets is with Spica. And so there's another layer here to Mars that has to do with the setup of the relationship to Earth, particularly because this priestess energy of this constellation has a lot to do with, this is the priestess of Gaia herself, and she's holding the grains of Earth's harvest and her abundance, her literal abundance to the world, to support humanity and to support life on this planet. And so Spica has that strong representation of that. And so the Mars is developing a connection there as it moves into the glare of the sun in the hidden realm. So the sun is overtaking the Mars, overtaking the planet Mars from our perspective. And so it's like swallowing that energy, and where the ego goes to go through its death rebirth, where the masculine goes through death and rebirth. So, Venus, that's just a leftover slide. I wanted to bring this in just to give people that didn't watch that other video that I wrote or recorded, and where Venus was. So Venus hasn't really moved all that much since this. It's moved backwards just a little bit, but you can see it. It's going to be, over time, it's going to get closer to this ecliptic line here. And this is the head of Hydra constellation there. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe to this video on my channel if you feel up to this is something you really like and want to see more of. And I'm probably going to be putting out a notification around like what kind of videos you may want to see, what other kinds, and I can maybe spread out what I do and maybe introduce other astrological things, other astrological videos into this. So I'm always excited to share more about this subject. I do on a professional level, I do astrological readings, natal chart readings, horoscopes. I do classes and events, particularly online and along the West Coast of the US, although I may be spreading out to other places in the US. And I also do astrocartography, and you can find my website at spiralnexus.com. And I also do some work about the starry sky, more specifically at mystaralchemy.com with Kaylin Castell. So thank you all for being a part of this, and I look forward to seeing you again on future videos. Take care.